What is karma? Is it bad? Or is it good? Is someone keeping an account of things I'm doing? Or is someone checking on me all the time on the things I'm avoiding? What is karmic contract? How do I understand my karmic debt? Is there a way to pay off my karmic debts? Is there a way to get done with my sacred karmic contracts? And how do these karmic contracts are affecting my life, my relationships, my career? In this episode, I'm going to share not only my own journey of understanding my karmic contracts, but hopefully I'll be able to help you to understand your journey with your karmic debts, your karmic contracts, and how to finally resolve them and transcend them. I'm Chandresh Bhardwaj, and this is Break the Norms. So before I begin talking about karma, I want to mention quickly about the healing retreat happening in Himalayas in September 2019. So I've been getting a lot of questions from you guys, and so many of the questions are very similar to each other. So I'll be uploading a video on my Instagram at cbmeditates, which will be answering all those frequently asked questions about the retreat. And secondly, one key highlight of this retreat, it's the personalized attention that's given to each guest, each student who joins the retreat. This is the reason I have not built up any automatic sign up on the website, and people ask me why you don't have any automatic payment option where people can just pay initial deposit and be part of the retreat. I don't want to do that because I want people to understand what this retreat is all about. I want to know them and I want them to know me, because the moment you sign up for the retreat, that moment onward, we start to work together. I start to understand your journey, your intention, your challenges, and why you want to be part of this experience. And I prescribe you a certain mantra, a certain meditation routine from that moment onward, so that by the time you arrive in India, your receptivity is expanded. Your energy and your chakras, your experience with your awareness, that's on a different level already by the time you are in India, because then you will be extracting maximum energy from India and from the healing Himalayas. Okay, so if this is the one for you, I will see you in India then. But enough about the retreat and moving on to the topic for this episode, karma. So I feel karma has become this interesting word which is used, misused, and abused in so many things. And people are using the word karma very casually in conversations, in books, in blogs, and videos. But no one is really getting deeper into the root of what karma really is, how it is affecting us, what are the extended consequences of karma, how do we understand karma, and what role it's playing in day-to-day lives. So karma literally means action. In the spiritual context, karma would mean conscious action, not just any action, but a conscious and aware action. So as I'm recording this podcast, it would be called karma in the right context if I am fully aware of what I'm talking, why I'm talking, and if I'm feeling every bit of this teaching with you. If I'm somewhere else mentally, if I'm simply recording this because I have to, do it for the heck of it, or I'm doing it for popularity or increasing a certain, name, fame kind of thing, then it's not considered the right karma because the intention has gone completely wrong. When you are doing certain things which may even look like the right karma, but if the intention is not right, if the root is not right, it's not, counted as the good karma or the right karma. So karma is a very interesting concept, and as I'm going to talk more about it, I hope you understand how it's already such an important part of your day-to-day lives, and you hopefully will also realize that a lot of your healing is actually being blocked due to misunderstanding of karma. So to understand karma, one thing has to be understood, which is karmic contracts. Now, there are many names for it. People call it with different names. I call it karmic contracts. Karmic contract is basically a certain pattern, a certain situation, which you have consciously or unconsciously signed up in your life. Karmic contracts are, with humans. It could be even with a situation, even with a geographical location, a country, a city, a town. It could be with people we don't know. It could be with completely strangers or completely, someone who's, with us, living in the same room for last 5 years. Karmic contract could also be with you. Okay. It's very much possible you are having a certain karmic contract with me and I have a certain karmic contract with you. And that's why we are exchanging this energy right now. So karmic contracts are very interesting. I remember when I first moved to LA from New York. This is like 7 years ago, I think now. And I had a very good practice going on in New York at that time. I used to lead weekly talks in New York. I was building up good clientele. I was traveling to different countries from New York. And I was attracting really powerful tribe of people. My clientele was coming from Wall Street, from Long Island, from Tri-State, the cities of Boston and Philadelphia and all that. So I was working very hard, like 15, 16 hours a day. And I was seeing the results. And then I moved to LA. And I did not like LA at all in the beginning. And the reason was very simple not to like it, because I was working in New York and spending all the money in LA. And somehow I was not feeling fulfilled with the kind of spirituality that I was seeing in LA. It was, really a turn off for me. I did not like how tantra or yoga or all the ancient sciences were casually, treated. And I was not getting the right clientele. And I listened to this genius, teacher of business. His name is Seth Godin. Since I come from business background, I, listen to a lot of business leaders. I read Wall Street Journal very often. It keeps me in touch with the kind of things my clientele is going through. And also I enjoy knowing about what's happening in the corporate world, how chaotic it's getting and how mindful it's trying to be. So anyway, Seth Godin always said, get better clients if you want to succeed. And my intention has always been to get better clients. And LA was not giving me that better clientele, honestly. And I wanted to leave LA many times. Sometimes I would go back to New York and simply not think of coming back to LA. And my father, he saw this pattern that I'm, constantly coming back and not going to LA. And he asked me one day, he said, I can see you're not going back to LA very often. And I know you're not happy, with the way work is going there, but you should still be there. And I said, why would I go there? It doesn't make any sense, right? He said, in spiritual path, things don't make sense the way it would make sense to any other work, right? And I said, I don't want to go back there. I don't feel comfortable, with just the kind of environment I see there. And he said, LA is the place where your work will start to bloom. You have a certain karmic contract with city of LA and you got to fulfill that. Once that's fulfilled, you could leave LA. But right now, if you don't fulfill it, LA will keep pulling you back. And that was true. Every time I thought of canceling my lease and moving back to New York, something will happen which will again keep me in LA. So when he used the word karmic contract, that definitely, made sense. And I do not argue with him when it comes to spirituality. I definitely take pride that I'm one of his surrendered students. So I like to maintain that vibe. And honestly, in the last 20 years or a little more than 20 years now, I have never ever questioned his judgment on my spiritual path or his guidance. And it has always resulted in more power, more strength, more clarity for me. So anyway, he said, there's a karmic contract that you share with LA. So even if you go there and don't get any clientele, don't get any interesting or good work, it's okay. Just stay there. Just watch a movie, go and have coffee there, do whatever you want to do, but be there. You got to cultivate this relationship with the energy of LA, and then, things will start to move. And he was absolutely right. I started doing what he suggested, and I clearly saw things started moving. And I can give you 100 different examples on how I have witnessed karmic contracts in my life and how I have witnessed that in other people's lives. Sometimes I would come across someone who just ended up with a wrong business partner or a terrible spouse. And it's toxic, it's abusive, it's draining, and they are trying to find an escape or they're trying to run away from the situation. So if I detect any karmic contract there, I stop them right in that moment. And I tell them, you got to resolve it. If you run away from it, if you hate it, if you built a fight against it, it's going to come back. So you got to go through the process. You got to go through that discomfort and fully resolve it, fully transcend it. And it would transcend for people, those who are willing to go through the work. And that's the game plan for today's episode, by the way, to encourage you to go through the work. Most of us don't want to go through the work, and I'll share the reasons why. So, when we talk about karmic contracts, there are 3 ways how these contracts take place and how you can deal with them. Number one way, or number one reaction of people, is to simply do nothing with the karmic contract. Most people are not even aware of what a karmic contract is. So when things start to, keep appearing, when they keep attracting similar kind of partners, when they keep attracting similar kind of failures in life or similar kind of struggles in life, they simply, they blame it on destiny, or they blame it on wrong timing, or they'll come up with other things. But karmic contract doesn't show up for a lot of people. Or even if it shows up, most people don't step up or do anything about it, because honestly, when you start to understand karmic contracts, you will realize it's a good amount of work to do. You have to go back to your roots and start doing it. And if you're doing it without any mentor, without any spiritual teacher, it gets even more complicated. So when you're not doing anything with your karmic contracts, then you're simply living in the past or in the future. When you're not fully understanding it, you're simply cultivating unnecessary expectations. You are building your bubbles. You are living in illusions. And this continues to become bigger. This continues to intensify itself. And most people don't want to go through the work. Most people don't want to do anything about it. And when you live such a way of life, it's terrible. It's going to bring you confusion, anger, self-doubt, fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of challenges. And it starts to feel like as if someone is planting, interesting challenges for you, and you start to become angry with life. But the truth is, there is a tool, there is a resource for you to get rid of this, repeating pattern. But you need to let go of your ego. You need to surrender and start to understand why these things are happening again and again. So number one thing is, get to know if similar things are repeating again and again in your life. If you are constantly seeing yourself in a similar pattern, it could be in a relationship, it could be in spiritual path, it could be in your business or career. Wherever it is, you got to pay a close attention and honest attention to why this is happening, and also how frequently something similar is repeating. I'm thinking of my days in Wall Street when I saw myself working in bank, going to college and convincing myself that this is the right path. And somewhere deep in my heart, I knew this is not who I am, but maybe I'll try to become this way. And it could have gone terribly wrong. I think if I was not into meditation, if I was not into the spiritual path, I could have remained in Wall Street and just become terrible, angry with life, and blame on certain external factor. And I've seen a lot of cases where it's very visible and very clear that this is, a certain toxic karmic contract that's just holding you back. But when we don't cultivate the courage, it just starts to eat you up. It starts to drain you and exhaust you. So when you start to understand there is a karmic contract, there is something that you need to resolve, you need to get into it, then the second layer of karmic contract starts to open up. And the second layer is understanding that you are a conscious choice maker. This is a magical mantra in the law of karma, that you and I are conscious choice makers, which basically means anything you do, you have a choice in it. Even right now, I have a choice to either record this podcast or just fall asleep. It's actually 1 a.m. right now, and I could fall asleep, but I had to finish this before I wrap up my day. And I've seen there's always a choice. When I was in school, my friends started smoking and started drinking, and they would offer me that you should be smoking with us, you should be drinking, and if you don't, you are not going to fit into this crowd. And I just never had the temptation of smoking or drinking, and I still don't smoke or drink. And I'm not, doing it for any moral reasons or religious reasons. It just never attracted me. And I clearly saw there was a choice even in that moment. And I have made many wrong choices, and I've also made some right choices. But if you're aware that there is a choice, and after that awareness, even if you make the wrong choice, you are still in a certain control of your life because you are aware of it. You're aware that I am fully aware of this wrong choice, and I take full responsibility of this wrong choice. Sometimes we consciously make the wrong choice because we feel this is something I just have to do. It could be a family obligation, a business obligation. It could be some other reason that you cannot explain to others, and you just end up making the wrong choice. And if you do that with complete awareness, there's still some hope that the damage will be controlled. But if you make the wrong choices unconsciously, then the damage continues to become bigger. Most of us are not aware that the life always gives you more than one option. And when there is more than one option, it's important that you make the choice that brings you empowerment, that brings you healing, that brings you joy, relaxation, and fulfillment in a certain way. And when you start to become aware that you are a conscious choice maker, then karmic contracts start to find a certain healing. They start to open up. They start to get, a certain resolution. When we are not even aware, and when we don't even want to work, or when we are not, in complete awareness of our power to make choices, that's when things start to go wrong. Many of, you must be in a wrong relationship and thinking, maybe this will work out. Maybe I'm going to give it another, 30 days, another 2 weeks. But when you know that there's a conscious choice of either walking away from this relationship, which is not bringing you fulfillment, which is not making you more loving, more compassionate, and instead making you more anxious and insecure, my friend, that's a conscious choice making opportunity. You have to listen to your present moment awareness and not the past or the future. The conscious choice making gives you the power to make choices which are in the present moment. And that's a good way to understand the law of conscious choices. That the conscious choice making happens in the present moment. It has nothing to do with the past or future. It's in the moment. It's for the moment. And you will be surprised when you start to, just be aware of this conscious choice making, things start to change in a very powerful way. And the law of conscious choice making, I think it's needed and it works very powerfully, especially if you're going through a relationship or a career path or a job where you constantly feel confused or insecure, or you are not fully sure if you should be in it or not, part of it. Because if you simply remind yourself that I am a conscious choice maker, your awareness will start to support you. It will start to give you the right strength that you need in order to move through the whole, situation. And when I work with people, this is one of the most basic lessons that I, teach them, that I constantly remind them that don't forget, you are a conscious choice maker. You made the choice of working with me. I made the choice of working with you. And now you will have the option of either making the tough decisions or not do anything with life. And then life will continue to happen the way it's happening, and ego will continue to call the shots. But if you make the right conscious choice in your complete awareness, then you will start to heal the old karmic contracts. And these contracts are important to resolve because they will transfer to the next lifetime as well. And I don't even want to quote, the Hindu scriptures or the tantra teachings with it, but it's very easy to understand that the karmic contract of your ancestors, your father, your mother, they are already in you. They're already part of you. When you were growing up, or if you have children, you can clearly see they are doing things which nobody has taught them. They're simply doing things what their parents did. Like my parents tell me all the time that I talk like my grandpa, or I write like my grandpa, or I have same viewpoints as my grandpa. And, my grandpa passed away when I was 5-year-old. And I was very close to him. Even for the first 5 years, I have a lot of memories. I still remember, certain, moments that I spent with him. And it warms my heart to even think that I inherited his love for poetry, his love for spirituality. But he was also a little antisocial, so I definitely inherited that from him. But it's so fascinating that a man who passed away when I was just 5-year-old, I inherited a lot of his habits. And I definitely inherited a lot of habits or karmic contracts from my ancestors. And it's a very important ritual in the Eastern traditions to honor your ancestors every morning. There are certain rituals where we literally tell the students or the clients to consistently light a candle to heal your ancestors. Because in many cases, it's the blockage coming from the ancestors. They were not healed. They died in a certain traumatic way, or they went through a certain fear, a certain doubt, a certain challenge, which is still very much part of your family. Now, I'm talking about some really extreme stuff, but this extreme stuff happens very common in many cases. I have seen people where the couple is not able to conceive, or where the business consistently fails. And there are many things which don't have any explanation. And then I try to get into the root of the ancestors, the root of the family, not just the parents, but the parents of the parents of the parents. It keeps going back. And if I'm able to detect a certain loophole, a certain major challenge in the family, then there's a karmic contract that was never looked upon, that was never touched, never acknowledged. And healing that starts to resolve a lot of things. So if you are going through a certain constant pain, certain blockage in your energy, a certain interesting series of events in the family, not just with you, but just in the family that's repeating after every few years, or with a certain, family members, you got to start honoring and acknowledging your ancestors. Honoring them start to open up a lot of doors of healing. In many cases, the ancestors start to connect with you. They start to guide you that please do this or get that done. And there are many rituals through which you can also get this done. But those rituals are very much, personalized, customized. There's no one standard ritual for it. But I hope you get the idea that when there's a conscious choice opportunity, there's a lot you can do. There's a lot of changes you can make. And then comes the third level of resolving the karmic contracts, where you simply transcend them. You simply cancel the contract. Imagine you signed a contract with a certain business. Let's say you are an artist and a certain studio asked you to sign a contract where you have to perform 10 music shows for them or write 5 books for them. And very soon you realize this is not the company I want to work with. These are not the people I want to join. But they keep quoting that you signed the contract. Now you have to write 5 books. You have to do these 10 music concerts with us. You kind of realize that I'm screwed up now. I cannot get out of this situation. And there are, certain marriages, certain business partnerships where you constantly feel that if I get out of it right now, this contract is going to just mess up my life completely, financially, emotionally, in every possible way. Imagine in all of this toxic situation, someone shows up and says that there is a way you can cancel the contract, that canceling it basically means you are free forever. There's nothing that you have to pay them. There's no debt. There's no consequences for it. It's going to be super smooth and it could be cancelled. Do you want to do it? And the chances are you will say yes right away. So there is a way. There is a very powerful way where you can transcend these contracts, cancel these contracts, which basically means that all these interesting situations, all these patterns that are showing up, they will stop showing up. Transcending the contracts is one of the most powerful spiritual state, a very powerful experience that you can get into. And obviously, this demands a lot of work from you. But it's completely worth it, because when you start to transcend the contracts, you're basically not only healing yourself, but you're healing an entire generation. You're releasing everyone from their contracts. It's like you and your family owes someone $20 million. And you suddenly got a check of $22 million. And not only you paid off the $20 million, but you also got the extra $2 million for, next few years, hopefully. But the point is, this is game changer. It requires work, but this is game changer for sure. Now, how do you transcend the contracts? Number one thing is, you got to have a very consistent, disciplined, devoted meditation practice. The meditation practice is also needed when it comes to the second layer of conscious choice making. But I would say that's a meditation where you could even meditate for half an hour every day, and you will be able to control life in a certain manner. But when it comes to transcending the contracts, then you simply have to raise the standard of your spiritual practice. Then you have to meditate at least 1 hour plus every day. And that meditation involves certain mantras, certain rituals. On this level, I highly recommend you work with a spiritual teacher, a spiritual guru, who's constantly working with everything that's showing up, because this stage is very sensitive. It's also very sacred. There are many, moments where you don't want to go ahead, where you want to hold back, or where things become so discomforting that you don't even want to move ahead. That's where support of a guru, of a teacher, start to change the game. I fully know that if I didn't have a guru, I would have been quite a mess. And I say it with complete confidence that I would have been a terrible mess, because I know my patterns. I know my weaknesses. And I know the moments where I have completely understood my challenges. And if there was no guru, I would have not been able to understood those challenges or resolve them. So this is a point where I ask you to trust the process of your life, to practice patience, to practice a very high degree of spiritual work. Because if you are doing the work to transcend the contracts, it basically means rewiring everything. It means completely challenging your traumas, completely challenging the conditioning of your generation, of your lineage, of your family. And that basically means, you're picking up a huge battle with unknown forces, and you need an army to win this battle. And that army has to be cosmic army. That has to be a spiritual strength backing you up. That's where things start to become very powerful, very interesting. So to conclude, here's the whole story. To understand and heal your karmic contracts, number one thing to know is, are you doing anything with it? Are you allowing it to happen as it's happening every day? If yes, stop right there and start to meditate upon this affirmation, this intention to become a conscious choice maker. Every day in the meditation, remind yourself that I am a conscious choice maker. I am going to make conscious choices today. When you come across a conflict, a moment of anxiety, a moment of anger, a moment of, panic, pause right there and ask yourself, is there a conscious choice opportunity here? The chances are there's going to be one. So make the choice that brings you empowerment, the choice that's right, the choice that's healing and fulfilling, and that's sacred in its quality. And start making meditation a very daily ritual in your life. And then start noting down the constant contracts that are showing up, the contracts with your parents, the contracts with your friends, your business, your spiritual path. There could be tons of interesting contracts that you have been completely missing out, maybe. And you have to pause. You have to fully become aware of the kind of contracts that need your attention. And once you start to understand them, start working with them on your own, first of all, because I feel you definitely need to go through that process, at least for a while. And when you start to know the loopholes, the challenges, the constant karmic contracts that are showing up and blocking your growth, then it would be the right time to work with someone who can understand you, who can understand how to fully resolve these contracts and cancel them fully. If you understand the journey of karmic contracts, it's going to be very exciting because you actually start to feel you have control over your life. And the feeling that life is controlling you or others are controlling you, that vanishes, that melts away completely, because you actually start to become so aware and so mindful of why things are happening with you and how you can control them, how you can channel them into a different direction. But you need to put the work in. Okay? That's all for today. I hope this episode was helpful to you. And this episode is interesting because all of us have such interesting and unique karmic contracts that if I say something, it's going to become too generalized. So I tried to keep it informative, and hopefully it gave you a certain sense, a certain awareness of where you are feeling blocked in your karmic journey. And as always, feel free to send me any questions after the podcast. If you like the podcast, please definitely rate and review it. That's always helpful. And keep sending me the suggestions, the questions. That inspires me for the future episodes. And if you want to be on the India retreat or the relationship retreat I'm teaching in Sedona, visit my website cbmeditates.com, and all the retreats, all the events are listed there. Thank you so much for your attention, for your efforts and dedication in healing your journey. I hope this podcast may travel through the untapped universe of your darkness, light, courage, passion, and so much more. Please do subscribe and be ready to break your norms. I am so excited and very honored to be part of your sacred journey through this podcast.